This show is brought to you by Loud and Opinionated.
Loud Sports Podcast. Welcome, guys. After the first weekend of March Madness, it is March 27th, Wednesday. We're filming this. We are recording this before the Sweet 16. I'm Paul Rubidoux here with Brandon Plecker.
Hey, guys.
And Jake Williams.
Hey.
And, oh my gosh, my bracket is just in shambles.
Yeah, my day was over after the first game. Was Minnesota, and it was the first game, right?
Yep, Minnesota, Louisville.
Yep, that lost that one.
Same.
Pick that
I had
one.
Louisville.
I'm
so mad for going against the Big Ten. What was I thinking?
We have some shout outs to do. First off the top, before we get into ours, I think like the top 4 people are in here because of me. We got my friend Jessica Moffitt, hardcore Hawkeye fan, great Twitter follow. She is leading our bracket and tied with Jonathan McCann and Mo, who...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was in Mo's wedding last fall. Great friend of mine.
Did you see the Derek's in there? As Loud OG Derek.
Yeah, he is. He just wanted to flex on how long he's been a part of the Loud and Opinionated. And then Go Gobs. I don't know which one of my cousins that is, but that's their high school is the Goblins. Unless one of you guys know who that is, that's my best bet.
There's me, ESPN 01. That's me.
And
a Lumberjake 1.
Out of 18 brackets in our group, I have number 14 and 17.
I'm actually in 7th place. I'm actually doing really well. But for some reason, I don't think it's took.
You're tied with my 9-year-old brother.
I still think that's remarkable.
Hey, I'm in 13th right now.
He did great, by the way.
Given how bad my first few days were, I feel like I'm in good shape.
My little brother also, Jake, picked off of the logos and team colors, and he is doing better than all 3 of us. So I'm bringing him next week, and he's going to tell you what is going on.
It really blew my mind because he has the same name as me.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, I didn't put that in there. But it said Jacob, and I'm like, I don't go by Jacob anymore. So that's not me.
Your friend Greg was doing great. First day and a half, 2 days.
It was funny, too, because he was a last-minute add to the bracket. And he loves basketball, so I knew that he would have a good bracket. He's pretty up on things, but... Yeah, I think I should stop doing this because I never end up. My brackets never end up that way. I think 7th is my peak. I don't think I'm going to do any better than that.
But then you'll never end up happy. Like, I'm chasing this high of 4 years ago when I picked 3 of the Final 4 and I had a bracket in like the 99.8th percentile. And it was my pinned tweet for like a year. But I'll never be that happy again because I'll probably never pick that well again.
It's tough.
It is really tough.
I don't understand how anybody could get into gambling with like college sports because I think college sports are the worst to gamble against because I mean when I look at my bracket, yes, I had some obvious ones that weren't going to happen. I had Yale beating LSU, but you never know. And Liberty, I think, was a big surprise to me. I did not see Liberty beating Mississippi State.
No, I didn't either. And that was just one of those bigger conference schools that did not show up. They were not ready for the intensity of the winner go home, which we'll get into.
Yeah, I'm
which
sure
other teams and conferences definitely had those teams. But looking at let's do some good round of 64 games in our bracket. So starting at the top, I mean, we all had UCF.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I got stumped by Liberty too.
Yep. Same.
Mm-hmm. Picked Maryland over
I'm
Belmont.
mad because I had Belmont. I watched them in that first game, and they looked really good. And they looked
the first 4 team always wins.
The first 4 team has made a run multiple times in the tournament, and they looked really good with their best player not scoring. And their best player against Maryland scored 35, and they lost.
Right.
How do you predict that? It's so hard. And that's what makes it so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Is a guy who's probably an NBA player drops 35 and they still lose.
Yeah, I got in my own head about I know my Final Four upset pick. I know who will make it, and it totally screwed me. But I did pick LSU over Yale.
I did as well, yeah.
Hey, it was only a 5-point loss, so my pick doesn't look that bad.
And I picked Minnesota in the battle of the Patino Bowl. I loved it.
Yeah. Yale, I wanted to be my Cinderella story. But Cinderella story to an extent. I had them losing to Michigan State. They get to the Sweet 16, but they lose to Michigan State. So yeah, that one was a little wacky. But I feel like sometimes you have to have those weird teams to go because you never really know.
There's usually one.
Yeah.
I feel really good about this because last week's episode, I said, look out for Oregon. They're on a hot streak.
They were underseeded, in my opinion.
They were underseeded.
And they shocked Wisconsin.
They were underseeded because of the loss of Bol Bol. The loss of Bol Bol made Oregon look like a mediocre team when they had Peyton Pritchard, who started as a freshman on the Final Four team,
right,
as their starting point guard.
Yeah. And what I saw in the Pac-12 tournament was enough to be like, I think this team has a lot of momentum, and I think they're going to ride that into the tournament.
They played great defense.
And they played very well, and I didn't have them going this far, but because I had them losing to K-State, who we'll get to in a little. We'll get all of the Big 12 in a little bit.
All the Big 12.
But I think Wisconsin is an example of a team that did not look very good.
They weren't ready for the intensity of March Madness.
I disagree with that. I think Wisconsin is a team that struggles to score. They have a post player, and post players tend to not be the best option in the NCAA tournament. I made the mistake, the same mistake Paul did. I picked Wisconsin to go to the Elite Eight. I picked Wisconsin to go far.
Oh.
And it took me out, but that is the one weakness when you have post players. The post players tend to not be as good in March as the guards. You like guards. Guards end up winning games.
Right.
That's how it always is.
It's guard leadership. Man, my first one that really let me down, though, is I had Syracuse going on to upset Gonzaga.
Yeah.
It's Jim Boeheim's just one of those March coaches like Izzo.
They did it last year.
He has his team ready to go no matter how they do in the regular season. And Baylor actually showed up out of any of the Big 12 teams.
Who would have thought?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Texas Tech
surprised me, honestly.
I mean, the first game was 72-57. They rolled up on Western Kentucky.
They also dominated Buffalo. I had Buffalo beating Texas Tech. I had Buffalo winning, but Texas Tech surprised me with how great they were dominant defensively in that game against Buffalo. Just dominant.
I have to say, minus Kansas, is it this? Let me look here. The Midwest and the Western Division, minus Kansas, I have a perfect bracket. Kansas is the only black eye here. Everybody else I picked perfectly.
That's pretty good. And
to me, this was the bottom part of this. I don't know if it's do you really call it the bottom bracket? I don't know. The West and the Midwest to me was the easiest path to having a good bracket because a lot of these matchups it was hard for me to pick against Texas Tech, and it is really hard. You know, even though you and I were talking about how Michigan kind of seeded high, I still didn't want to pick against them because Michigan is one of those teams that I don't think it's been a while since they won a championship, hasn't it?
They went to the championship game 2 years ago.
Yeah, they
didn't win, right?
They lost to North Carolina.
Well, yeah, but
they were in another one where they lost.
They went to the Final Four like the year before that too.
Did they lose to
Point is, they're not.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so. They're not like a Duke or North Carolina level of elite, but they are still always a pretty decent basketball program.
See, I disagreed with you guys when you said Michigan wasn't a 2 seed. I thought that in my opinion, I guess, when I watched the Big Ten championship game of Michigan State and Michigan, I saw the winner coming out as a 1 seed. That's how I saw it. Obviously, that didn't happen because the ACC got probably what they deserved in 3 number 1 seeds. But I saw the Big Ten champion coming out as a number 1 seed. That didn't happen, but I think they're showing that they're still They probably should have been.
I guess I view Michigan as the same way I view Texas Tech. Okay, you did well this year. If you get upset in any game, I'm not going to be surprised. And if you go to the Elite Eight, I'm not going to be surprised. You have potential. You might live up to it. Michigan lost to Iowa. Texas Tech lost to Iowa State. These are teams that can win and lose these games, and
They struggle to score. That's
I
the
wanted
thing.
Buffalo to move on too, man.
I had 'em.
But yeah. Also, in that side of the bracket, we got to give a second to John Morant.
He was
First
good.
triple-double in 7 years in the tournament. Last one, did you guys see this? Who had the last triple-double? 2012. Would you like to take a guess?
I saw it, but I can't remember.
I can't.
Draymond Green was the last player to have a triple-double in the NCAA tournament.
I was gonna say that or Steph Curry, but I didn't remember Steph Curry's what years he was in college, so I didn't want to look stupid. I think I have, when I look at the Sweet 16, that's really the only ones. Oregon definitely got farther than I expected. I expected Virginia to play as well as they have. I mean, the ACC has not surprised me at how well they're performing.
5 teams.
Yeah, they're all looking really good.
SEC was dominant as well.
Purdue has really surprised me. Not that they won, but the way that they won.
Yes, I was surprised that they won by 25 or whatever it was. They were up by 35 at one point in that game.
Yeah, the domination is surprising.
Yeah, that was surprising to me. I thought they would win, but I definitely didn't see them beating Villanova like they did.
My bottom just fell out with Nevada. I was 8-0. First 2 rounds of games, I was great. And then the very next game that tipped off
Was Florida, Nevada.
Didn't you have them in the Final Four?
I did.
Nevada, yeah.
Yeah,
You
Nevada was I got 2 in my own head of I need to pick my upset. And I need to.
This was the
I
year.
need to have one.
This
I
was
can't
the year
have
not
ones
to
and
have
twos.
that.
I can't have 1s and 2s, and this is the year where
This is the year.
it's going to be.
I mean,
all the number
1s,
1s, all the number 2s, and all the number 3s made it to the Sweet 16.
Which is
That's probably never happened before.
It's only been once that it's all 1s to the Final Four.
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that it will be all 1s to the Final Four.
Yeah, because I think Tennessee will get there and there too.
I think Tennessee has a good chance as well.
But it's
Tennessee.
funny, like you said, that it's hard to pick against those. I understand what you were doing, because when you're competing against friends, you go out on a limb a lot because you're like, I gotta beat this guy.
You have to get the edge. You got to go against the herd.
Why do you think I put Yale in the Sweet 16?
It is not a bad choice to pick the Ivy League winner in an upset in the first round. I would do it if it was Harvard, maybe. But Yale was decent.
See how much you just pissed off Yale fans?
Yale
Saying
has
that
won a
Harvard
game in the
was
tournament
better?
recently. I can't remember which year, but I believe Yale did win a game.
Did they beat Duke?
No, Lehigh beat Duke.
Oh.
Yeah.
Lehigh beat Jabari Parker's Duke team back in 15. They were the 2 seed. CJ McCollum. Yep.
Where he was like, "This is my game." I can't remember something, but he has a quote from pregame where he's like, he told the announcers or like a sideline reporter like, "Hey, don't go anywhere. Like you're about to see a show," and he put it on.
Speaking of shows, can we talk about Duke UCF?
What a game.
One of the greatest. It sucks that there was a round of 32 game. Like, it's exciting, but also kind of like a letdown. I hope Virginia Tech and Duke is as good as that.
It's not a letdown though, because you want Duke to move on.
Yeah.
You would
No,
be
I
disappointed.
no,
This
I
is
didn't-
not the Cinderella to choose.
I didn't want UCF to win. I'm worried that that's like going to be the best game of the tournament. I mean, you could argue that the Auburn game was going to be the best one because that was insane. That air ball at the end. Oh my God.
The 2 missed free throws. Down by 2, you get 3 free throws and you miss them. Are you kidding me?
I have never seen more chances to lose a game by the winning team in the final minute.
Auburn tried to give that game
It was
away.
Turnover.
They tried to hand that game
And
over.
I picked New Mexico.
Oh man,
I can't believe it.
But I think Duke UCF, in my opinion, is the best game so far.
it was a great game. It's
Yeah,
exactly
Andre
what you want in
Dawkins
March.
balled out. 35 points. He was a Michigan commit. Did you know that?
No.
He committed to Michigan before his dad got the job at UCF.
Oh.
He would have been at Michigan right now.
But you want the team. You want to see on the ticker up at the top of the screen. Oh my gosh! Look at that score. if you're not watching that game and you want to flip to that
And
game.
it was the only one of the whole weekend.
And you want to, well, there's the Iowa game.
Okay,
The Iowa
but that
game
one was a
made me change the
25-point
channel.
game. Like, what
That's
happened?
why I changed the channel.
You couldn't change the channel.
Look at the
Were you not
comments.
watching any basketball? That was the only game on, man.
But figuratively, whatever. You know what I mean? Because I would not go out of my way to watch a Hawkeye basketball game, even in March. I watched the end of that game, but I didn't watch the Cincinnati game.
So much shade.
I had him it's not shade. It's
It
just-
is shade because his team played horribly.
my team played horribly. Team B came out. If you want to read my most recent article on Corn-Fed Media talking about how Cyclones were Team A, as Steve Rome put it, in the Big 12 tournament, they looked like a bunch of freshmen and sophomores that were not ready for physical upperclassmen play.
They had no answer for Caleb Wesson.
Oh my
No
gosh.
answer.
He is literally the bane of Iowa State basketball over the past 8 years, is when there is the thick post where we have not been
dominated them.
able to compete because we have not been able to recruit that man, since maybe Melvin Edgin was our last good rim protector. And since then, it has been super hard to compete when there is that guy on the floor that can muscle his way around Michael Jacobson. Oh my gosh. He got benched for Cam Lard. You get benched for Cam Lard, the guy who just got suspended again and is leaving the program. I really like Michael Jacobson, but you have to work harder to stay on the floor, in my opinion. And I get that that's easy to say, as he was getting elbowed around by it.
Yeah, I said in the first. I saw right when I turned the game on, probably 5 possessions through the game because I was at work and then I went to B-Dubs, and that's where I watched the Iowa State game.
Mm-hmm.
5 possessions into that game of me watching, I said, Caleb Wesson is going to dominate this game, and they're not going to be able to stop him.
It was obvious immediately that
It was.
something needs to be done to take care of this guy, or you're going to lose this
Yep.
game. And then it was just this
And they
two-man
didn't.
game with
They
him and his
didn't.
brother all night long. Oh my gosh, it was like Taylor and Blake Griffin all over again. I could not handle it.
Yeah, I think Iowa State and Ohio State to me was the most disappointing game to watch.
It was very embarrassing. Yeah, a team that just won their conference tournament, a major
the way that they
conference
did,
tournament, does not show
And
up.
the
Played so
the
well.
only thing that now we may not get to this, but I didn't think Iowa State's winning the Big 12 tournament is that great. But the way they did by winning by 15 in multiple games, that is impressive.
They controlled Kansas.
Yes.
The closer game was Kansas State, which could have been the real
They won
championship.
they won by 15 against Kansas, and Kansas showed that they were probably Texas Tech. I don't know. I still think Kansas was a
Kansas's
better
last
team
two
than Texas
games.
Tech was.
Kansas is in elimination games. Their past 2 games, and they can't get off the bus.
Kansas-
I keep saying that, but they just don't.
Kansas
they're
was
not
so-
in it from the
that
beginning.
was the
Kansas team, those injuries were killer. This Kansas team was probably a Final Four team with Azubuike and LeGerald Vick.
And
Let's be honest.
Okay, so
Vic
quick question.
could be a positive, as he was just kind of.
But he was their
throwing
best
shots.
shooter. But he was their best shooter.
Yeah.
LeGerald Vick was their best
He
shooter,
was
and
their
it
best
wasn't
shooter.
close. He was one of the best shooters in the Big 12 conference.
All right,
He
okay.
shot almost 50% from the 3.
I have a question. So if we're giving out awards for the
Oh, I like it.
round of 64 and round of 32,
Mm-hmm.
best game goes to UCF and Duke, right?
Yes.
Best overall game.
Yeah.
Yes.
So most disappointing, do we give that to Iowa State? Do we give that to Kansas, or do we just give that to the whole Big 12 conference? Or
You know,
Wisconsin, maybe?
You can say that it's biased, but I was incredibly disappointed in Nevada because they averaged 80 points a game. They scored 61 points. They never looked comfortable. Their senior, one of the twins, one of their leaders on the team, was obviously shook, committing stupid fouls, frustrated to the point where he's putting himself on the bench. Iowa State did not perform well, but I would say that Nevada was the more disappointing for what I expected in the first round.
I think it's a little, for me, it's a little bit of a tie for Kansas and Iowa State. And it's another thing to where, yes,
Kansas,
I
yeah.
had Kansas going in the Final Four in my bracket. And the way how badly they got beaten, it was just,
Yeah,
it was ugly.
it was ugly.
So for me, it'd probably be Kansas, I think. As bad as Iowa State played, it is disappointing because of all that momentum of the Big 12 tournament, and I'm sure you're going to let me know how overrated the Big 12 is, Brandon. But Yeah, I thought that meant something, and I guess it didn't.
Iowa State, you're talking about?
Yeah,
right now?
yeah.
I mean, I definitely thought they would win. I definitely thought they would beat Ohio State.
I thought they were going to the Sweet 16.
They've lost to Ohio State in the NCAA tournament twice now in the past 10 years. Yeah, this could be something that sticks with them.
Actually, no. I think I have them losing in the round of 32 to Houston.
I had Houston.
Yeah,
I had Houston beating Iowa State.
Again,
but
that's how that Houston got a lot farther, and they were, like I said, other than
Houston looks really good.
I take that back. There's two teams that messed up my bracket, and that it was the two Big 12 teams. It was Iowa State and Kansas are the only two misses I have in the West and Midwest.
So best individual performance goes to
Best individual.
To me, it had to be Zion, but then it could have been.
You're going like over the course of the two games?
Yeah,
I mean like one game stat line.
Carson Edwards, Purdue. 35 points against Villanova.
I knew we were going to disagree on this one.
35 points against Villanova.
John Morant's triple-double, though.
Against Marquette.
Okay. Marquette is
not a defensive team.
They're a good basketball program. I mean,
yeah.
Oh my gosh, come on.
They have a little bit of history. They're not a blue blood.
The only thing Marquette has done is produce Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, and a few good Golden Eagles teams when Buzz was there, but he's not there anymore. And it is about coaching when you're trying to get recruits like that.
I think 35. I think it's a tie to me. I thought Andre Dawkins might have had the best performance against Duke because that was impressed to me because he was getting he was the only guy who could score on that team. He's the only scorer on that UCF team, and he put up 35 on a good defensive team in Duke. Duke is a really good defensive team.
Yeah,
it's between him and Zion. Really, my
because
they both played phenomenal.
Zion does what Zion does. He doesn't miss shots, and he scores 30 points. That's what he does. He just doesn't miss shots because all of them are layups.
Right.
Like he's
a big dude. Why else?
I don't know what his shooting percentage is, but I bet it's over 65%. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
In the ACC tournament, I think he missed 4 shots the whole tournament. I know that first game he didn't miss a shot.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I think you swayed me. I think is it Andre Dawkins?
I think his first name is Andre, but it's Dawkins.
Dawkins. You won me over. I think Dawkins' performance is more impressive because you're right. Zion is going to do that all the time. Yeah. Zion's going to have 30
done
points.
That all year. I'm sure Dawkins has probably done that too, but not against that team, not against that level of competition.
You swayed me. I agree with you.
So, player we're most excited to watch this upcoming weekend.
Cassius Winston.
Absolutely. Yeah, dude. I love watching him.
He's so good.
I'm trying. I don't know. I hate to be that guy, but it's just we talk about this. But Zion, to me, I'm a Zion fanboy. Man, he's good. He's fun to watch.
He is fun to watch.
He makes it fun. He's smiling. He's engaging with teammates. He's not just Ben Simmons was the best player in college, but he was just there for the year. You know? Zion is making.
For God's sake, Ben Simmons dropped out as soon as LSU season was done. He didn't even finish college. He didn't finish that year of college. He dropped out. He didn't
finish the semester. He was just like, I'm here for the eligibility.
I like
that
it.
Was incredible.
I like it when players show their personality because basketball should always be about personality because it's the most up close you can get, and I like fun personalities.
This is going to be the summer of Jack dudes wearing polos with the top button buttoned because of Zion. Because that's what he does. And he looks
classy.
He looks like the happiest, most friendly bull. but he's wearing a polo.
So
he looks nice.
Going forward, what other award would we give? What's the last one we should give out?
Coaching. Best coaching?
Tom Izzo.
Well, that's
nah.
That's kind of like people are upset at him because
that's why I said it. Yeah.
He yelled at a player.
Get over it.
Yeah, that's pretty.
I agree with what people are saying on Twitter. Is like the people that are upset about that probably have never played sports and do not know that situation.
Yeah.
When you're getting yelled at by a coach, yes, he's upset with you, but a good coach, when they're yelling at you like that, it's encouraging you because they know you're better. Any
person that is upset with that, I would love to sit down with some highlights of what's his name? On the Gamecocks. That was the Kansas State head coach.
Martin.
Yeah.
I can't think of his first name.
Martin.
It's Martin.
Yeah.
Frank Martin or something like that.
Frank Martin. Thank you, Brandon. Frank Martin is one of the most aggressive, scary dudes on the sideline the way he berates and yells at people, and he has this stare. And you think that Tom Izzo is being over the top by calling a player out in a huddle? These guys know what they're getting into by the program they go to. At this point, you can talk to players who are in college. You can talk to people who have transferred away. You know what type of coach you want and what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
These are guys that want Tom Izzo. And so if Tom Izzo's being Tom Izzo, that's why they're still playing.
If he wasn't yelling at you, he wouldn't be the reason. That's not the reason why you went to Michigan State.
Right.
That's not you're not trying. He's not trying to be the best anymore.
He's coaching.
Yeah.
He is showing he cares.
There's a reason why Tom Izzo's been to the Final Four. Every single class at Michigan State has been to the Final Four for probably like 10 years. Once every 4 years, they go to the Final Four.
Okay, worst coaching, Bill Self. Tied Steve Prohm. No, I can't.
I would say, I would say, yeah, I would agree with Bill Self.
Bill Self. I've said this for years. I don't think he's a good in-game coach. Same with Calipari. They live off the raw talent that they have. And I think it really shows in games with anything on the line in the last 4 minutes. Bill Self just yells and smashes one hand into the other hand, and Calipari takes it as camera time because he knows he's on TV, and he yells and he waves his arms and he runs up and down. He's not a good coach.
Kentucky's in the Sweet 16 without their best player.
That's because they have how many McDonald's All-Americans?
I hate when they say
they don't have their best player.
This makes me hungry.
That's okay. Are you saying that if Duke was here without Zion,
they would not be here?
Oh, they would definitely.
I think Duke would still.
Are you kidding me?
RJ Barrett would say, "This is me time."
RJ Barrett would not be able to do what Zion does. No.
He doesn't have to. You don't have to do what Zion does. But
Did you see how they played without Zion?
I think they would still beat UCF.
They went 5-3. They are mediocre. Mediocre.
I gotta
mediocre. They have two other guys that are going to be top 5 recruits.
They're a mediocre
draft picks.
They're a mediocre top 25
what are we
team.
even arguing about?
They're not a Final Four team. They're not a Sweet 16 team without Zion Williamson.
So Zion is. I agree. I think Zion is the only reason why I have Duke in the championship, winning the championship.
Zion is why I have Duke
winning the whole thing. Yeah. So going forward, right? We're gonna.
Yeah. Let's
you never did specify. Where did you go wrong, buddy?
Oh,
was it Nevada?
It's definitely Nevada. I got hot. I got in my own head. I was like, I got to pick my upset pick. And I reached because you got to find the edge with people that are going to do. I saw how many people picked Duke, and I was like, you got to have something a little different.
You know, that's why I picked Michigan State.
Yeah,
that's honestly the reason.
I like the pick, though. I like Izzo in March. Him and Boeheim. I love their teams in March. They're always in it to win it, except this year with Syracuse, apparently.
There's really, yeah, that's the thing is, that's what is a little, I understand from the outside of like, it is annoying when you don't see Cinderella make a run. But at the same time, these are all really good teams, and they're going to make for really good games.
Yes,
I agree.
So we have been spoiled in that aspect.
And we have done the Tournament Challenge Second Chance on ESPN.
This is our updated bracket.
You can do, this is the Sweet 16 of forward bracket. So let's take a look here. First game, Duke and Virginia Tech.
See,
Duke's still going to win.
Yeah, Duke is still going to be the champion for me. Again, when I look at this isn't far off from what my bracket looks like. It's just North Carolina.
We get it, Jake.
Hey,
I'm so upset.
Hey, I'm looking at mine. This is my actual bracket, not my Sweet 16.
Yeah.
I'm missing one team in each of all the Sweet. I am only got 4 wrong. I have 7 out of the 8 Elite 8 teams left, and all 4 of my Final 4 teams are still there. My bracket is looking pretty. I'm low right now, but I think I have a chance to jump up into that bracket with because a lot of my teams are still left.
That being said, I've changed my tune because I have to, because of Second Chance. Now that I'm looking at it, I think North Carolina gets to the Final Four. It's going to be North Carolina against Tennessee.
Why did you not have North Carolina in the Final Four?
Because I had Kansas as like my
Kentucky's going to be a scary
pick.
team.
All right, we'll get there.
If Kentucky gets PJ Washington back, watch out.
So LSU,
that's
Michigan
a 20-point
State.
scorer.
LSU, Michigan State. is the next game.
I feel like we're all across the board gonna have the same picks.
Oh, I don't
because
moving
I have
forward,
Michigan State. You have Michigan State, right, Brandon? What about you?
Michigan State, yeah.
Okay.
Because LSU doesn't have their head coach, and
Yeah,
they're just
this is where it's going to matter.
They're going to get run out of this gym. I get it's the Sweet 16, but this is going to be the blowout of this round, more than Duke, Virginia Tech.
They were more They were more talented than the first two teams they played, but they're
really
not.
like
they're not more.
watching
They're just as talented as Michigan State.
Yeah. Well,
LSU has great talent. LSU has the guys.
Because they're paying them, and that has been proven by the federal
yes,
government.
yes, but they have the
Oh,
guys.
yeah, they were one of the teams in that huge scandal.
That's why their coach isn't coaching.
Their coach isn't coaching, and
That's why they got Ben Simmons.
I want to get my job back, and you're like, are you joking, dude? We thought Sean Miller was gonna get fired, and you think you're gonna coach?
If you're gonna cheat, don't get caught.
Yeah. It's like Lance Armstrong. Everybody's cheating. You just gotta out-cheat the cheaters.
That's the thing too. Is like of all the other schools, because Kansas was brought up, Michigan State are these big schools, and LSU is the one that gets in trouble. Like, come on, you gotta be smart.
LSU is so who's the football school that was doing this in the SEC?
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss was doing this. This is what you gotta do to hang with the big boys, and I'm so glad that I just have this feeling that Fred Hoiberg was like, oh, I'm not touching that side of college basketball, and that's part of why he moved on, because it's widely known he hated recruiting. So I think that there are definitely a good amount of mid-tier, higher conference schools that are doing this.
I understand when you're an LSU team that has to compete with Kentucky,
Tennessee, you got to set yourself apart. Avery Johnson got hired as the coach of Alabama because you got to do something, and now he's gone.
What's
and
the
they
next?
got one guy.
What's the next one, Paul?
Sexton.
Yeah, Colin Sexton. Exactly.
And he was
you
a
get
stud.
one guy, it can win you 2 games. It brings you so much money to your school.
Yep.
Exactly. Next one. Oh yeah, Florida State's moving on. You heard it here first.
The Zags are too good.
No,
Dude.
Gonzaga's
Zags are so good.
Gonzaga's in my
Did they win
Final
their
Four.
conference?
I don't care.
Michigan State didn't win. Wait, did they?
Michigan State won the Big
Michigan
Ten
State won.
regular
Michigan-
season and conference tournament title.
I couldn't remember if that was Michigan or Michigan State.
That game made
Gonzaga
me
Texas
is
Tech
so
didn't win.
good.
And Texas, look where Texas Tech's
The
at.
Zags have a vulnerability.
What?
Their competition in the West Coast Conference.
Paul,
He's speechless.
Gonzaga is a blue blood.
I don't
Come
even
on.
know what to say to you because
they get the
Why do you
guys
pick
from
against
the-
blue bloods, man?
I'm not picking against blue bloods. I think that when's their national championship? They're a blue blood.
they just won 2 years ago.
Gonzaga?
Yes.
Oh my god.
They literally just won the national championship.
I did not expect Brandon and I to be like besties throughout this
I
whole
really
thing. Him and I
thought
are
you
so
were
much
gonna
on the
say
same page.
Villanova,
I'll take that
Gonzaga, Villanova.
Okay, so I knew the 2 Villanovas.
And Gonzaga won. With half these players.
That's not okay.
So
You lost, Paul.
Oh, no.
the sophomore
Is
Gonzaga
that
team can win.
Sabonis? Was that Sabonis?
Yes,
okay.
they had. Yes,
All
they
right.
had Sabonis.
All right, yeah.
But
back when I
these guys are better.
didn't care. Is that like the first Steve?
Hachimura is a stud. Brandon Clark shoots 75% from the field.
Oh yeah, I like
Josh
watching
Perkins,
Hachimura, but I don't think that
Hachimura is a stud.
he is not going to be able to put a game on his shoulders at this level of the tournament like a guy like Zion.
However,
can.
And who is Florida State going to beat him with?
The team, they're athletic, they're long. They had how many losses?
So is Gonzaga.
Gonzaga does not get the recruits. I believe. This is my
Hachimura is a top 10 pick
stout
probably.
opinion. That Gonzaga gets great recruits, and they are probably the best international recruiting school in high-level college basketball. But their conference puts them at a high level to where they always have a target on their back, and I don't believe in teams led by a freshman unless you're Zion.
Paul, let me ask you this.
They're not led by a freshman.
How old is Hachimura?
He's a junior or a senior. Hachimura was on the national championship team.
I don't watch West Coast basketball.
Why don't you believe
You
in
better start watching Gonzaga.
You better start believing.
I
in the
promise you.
Zags.
I promise you will be impressed by Gonzaga.
I've been watching them, and I still think that they're going to come across
They
a
beat
team.
the Baylor Bears, who just beat Syracuse
Yeah. And,
pretty handily.
You pick Nevada, you're out of this.
Yeah,
You picked a little school.
Don't devolve into this team beat that team, because once you get 2 degrees away, like you can say that half of these teams could be national champions because they beat anybody that beat Virginia Tech or North Carolina throughout the season, will they beat the team that beat Duke if Duke wins? Can't do that.
The only team that beat Virginia is Duke. Literally.
His face. I wish you guys could see his face. Point is, I agree with you that Florida State isn't a bad pick. Florida State is a very good team.
I have Florida State
in
winning this game.
in my Michigan State winning it all, I'm more scared of Gonzaga than I am of Duke.
Stop. Are you serious?
Because of Zion.
That's
Zion's the only
joke.
thing that Duke has.
Mark Few is not. He's like a Calipari coach to me. I don't think he's as good of a coach as he is of a recruiter and team builder. Okay, Calipari has a win. That Bill Self has a win. I still think the same about those guys. If you have the right recruits, you can win based on pure talent.
You just said they weren't talented. You just said
They're
none of
not-
those
they're
guys.
not now.
You just said none of those guys could carry a team, and now you're saying they have great talent.
I'm saying that they did. Okay, Domantas Sabonis is better than anyone on this roster.
No,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
no.
We'll revisit. I'll set an alarm. 5 years.
5 years.
We'll check.
You're not even gonna have the same phone.
I'll put it in Google something.
Oh, put it in your Google Calendar or something like that.
In closing, our first big disagreement. I don't think that this Gonzaga team is going to be able to hang once it really gets down to it.
Who do you
And
got?
Brandon's very excited for me to be wrong.
Who do you got for Texas Tech, Michigan?
Michigan.
Michigan.
I have Texas Tech.
Okay, and this is the matchup of the teams that would not surprise me one way or the other.
Right.
This is
a toss-up.
they're exactly the same team. They are.
Whoever shoots 45% from three is going to win this.
They're
game.
the exact same team. Great defensively, struggle to score offensively at times. Texas Tech may have the advantage because of what's his name, Culver. Is that how you say? I can't remember his name. Jarrett Culver or whatever. The top 10 pick. You don't know who Texas Tech's best player is?
I don't watch Texas Tech.
You don't, I thought you were a Big 12 fan.
I'm a Big 12 fan, but I don't watch Texas Tech basketball.
You never watched Iowa State play Texas Tech?
I did
'Cause
watch
that's-
them, but I bartend during most of these games that I'm watching.
Dude.
I look up Iowa State stuff. I've looked up Duke stuff. I looked up a few other team stuff this year, but not.
I think
Gonzaga, not Texas Tech.
I think it's Jarrett Culver.
Okay.
He's a top 10. He's top 15 pick probably. He's probably a lottery pick this year. They thought he was going to be a lottery pick last year. I'm
All right.
surprised he's still there, but
What's next, Paul? Is it Virginia against Oregon?
yep.
My bracket
That is the
went away.
next game, yes.
I
Virginia,
have Virginia.
Yeah, this is Jake's call. He picked Oregon.
Well, I didn't have Oregon going this far. I'm surprised they went this because I had them losing to K-State. So as much as it hurts to say, I'd like to see Oregon make a run just because a 12 seed, that'd be crazy. But Virginia is just too good. And I just don't think they have the talent to compete with a team like Virginia. As good as Oregon has played recently, I think the buck stops there.
I agree with you that Virginia's more talented.
Although they almost lost in the first round for the
But-
second year in a row.
I see Virginia as a team who gets in their own head and they can't score at times when they get in their own head and they struggle against teams that they should dominate.
So you have
And I say Virginia wins the game, but I would not be surprised if Oregon wins.
all that talk and he can't pull the trigger.
That's okay. It's
All that talk and you can't pull the trigger and
Oregon's
make
right.
Oregon the
I don't
upset.
think that Oregon has enough scoring to score against the best defense in the country.
What do you think, Paul?
Oh, Virginia slows you down.
Yeah.
If they're on their game, you can't play your game. That is their game. They are the Bill Belichick of college basketball because their main offense is making you play in a 55 to 58 point game.
Mm-hmm.
And they're great at it. And they only got run out once by UMBC. But we all have Virginia.
People
moving
don't
forward.
forget, Paul. People don't forget.
I love it. Oh, what's his name?
They got
Forgot
dominated
the
by
New York,
UMBC.
The
That
New
wasn't even
York
close.
sports guy forgot, and he was like, "There's never been a number one seed." And then they tweeted at him. And said,
Probably
"You were
Mike
retired."
Francesca.
Like, yeah, it
'cause
was.
He's awful.
Yeah, it was.
How does that guy?
Francesca.
How is that guy even? How did he get where he is in his career? Francesca is the worst.
It's because he is hyperbole. He's yelling at callers. He is everything. That
Well, he's got
should be
that New York
radio.
attitude. Yeah.
All right, Purdue, Tennessee.
Tennessee is as good as Purdue has played, in my opinion, the two best teams will play in the championship, and that's Duke and Tennessee. They are the two best teams
Man.
to me.
That's what I moved my championship
Tennessee
to.
has a lot of talent.
From my regular bracket, I had Duke, North Carolina, and in this one, I have Duke, Tennessee. We'll get there. Tennessee, yeah, they are one of the like 5 teams. There's that small list of the teams that can compete with and beat Duke, and they're on it. So is North Carolina. We got North Carolina, Auburn, and I have North Carolina moving forward.
Yep.
Carolina.
Yep, I would agree.
Houston, Kentucky.
That's a game that it's the same thing that I admit I play into this idea of seeding, and I think that does make a difference in my head. And I think Kentucky is such a good, like, they've been in the tournament before. They're a good team. They're consistently good. I'd have to take Kentucky over Houston.
I think Kentucky's good, and I think Kentucky's scary, but I picked Houston to go the Elite Eight before, and I have Houston still moving on.
After all you said about P.J. Washington and Kentucky and everything, I have Houston too. I'm very happy with how Houston has played. They are the bouncy up and down team that has made it this far. My world was rocked when I tuned into a game of the Scarlet and Gray playing against a gray and red jersey, and it took me so long to figure out the gray team was Houston and the red team was Ohio State. I had such a problem with that
They weren't white.
the team that's logo is red and white is wearing the gray and
the other
red,
team is silver
the other
and
team
red.
is wearing red and white, and I'm like, is that Houston? Oh no, that's Cassius, the guy that just burned my team.
The other team that literally has silver in their color scheme is not the. Yeah, that's weird. That's a weird choice.
Houston's a 30-win team this year.
Yeah, I like Houston moving forward. I like that pick.
I picked Houston to move on in the original one, so
I'm sorry.
I'm sticking with it.
I'm just picturing Paul watching TV and just visibly getting more angry at what you're watching. Why are they wearing gray?
I have a problem with during March Madness, I stand during games. And I do this like during Packer games
Sure.
too, is mainly the two things I do. But any great March Madness game, I'm just standing because I love it. I'm standing like 4 feet and like off to the side of the TV, and that's just where I stand. So I can make my movements and my exciting things. I just love it.
I
love
lean on the
March.
chair normally. I lean on the chair a lot.
I
stand right behind it and I'm leaning on it,
I
so
s-
I can do the same thing.
I start by sitting forward,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and after something.
Literally on the edge of your seat.
And then I'll go to like fill my water bottle or do something, and I come back and I just don't sit down because I'm there like, oh wow, what just happened?
Okay, let me ask you this: when it's something that's insane, do you just sit there with your mouth open, or do you make a sound?
Oh,
Because I don't make a sound.
Here's
I
what-
just sit there with my mouth, like jaw on the floor, like what just
When
happened?
that shot by Andre Dawkins didn't go in for UCF against Duke, I was sitting on my couch and I just fell forward and I couldn't say anything. I couldn't believe it. How that shot didn't go in, I still will never know.
It was really funny this week. I found out like I'm from a line of noisy people in those situations because, as Courtney will tell you, me and my grandpa sitting there watching March Madness, it's filled with just two guys just being there quiet and then going, oh! We both do it. Woo! And it's just these sounds like with a block or like a charge call. I'll do the charge motion. I'll just like hit the hips. And I love it. Like that's
Dude,
why
it's like when you're watching football and you like do the miming of pulling a flag out of your pants. And
I
it's
am
like
going-
throwing your hand up.
Oh yeah, I do that too.
Oh yeah.
I get way more into football games than I do basketball.
No,
games.
it's you know what's really funny is it's like I remember one time we were going out with some friends. It was from Ashley's old job, and we were some friends, and we were literally at a UNO hockey game. And it was so funny because the women were actually having conversations, and the men were all just sitting there quiet, watching. Oh, and then here's where it comes the armchair quarterback analysis. Well, you see, if he would have done this, then he would have, like we know what we're talking about. Sports.
Yeah, I do that. I know that I am going to be kicked out of Prairie Meadows the first March after they put in a sports book because I'm going to be standing next to the chair. Yeah, I'm just going to be standing there and I won't sit and I'll just be like super awkward. and I will not be allowed back because I was too excited.
We're still gonna have this podcast, dude.
Oh, yeah.
It's just gonna be old guys yelling into
We'll
it.
report. Okay, so first game of the Elite
Give me my
Eight.
dentures.
Is this the championship game? Duke, Michigan State.
You know, I would say that if it weren't for Tennessee. Like I totally agree that it sucks that is an Elite Eight game and not the championship.
Or Final Four even.
At least a Final Four. Again, like I said, in my opinion, I thought Michigan State should have been a #1 seed. So I felt like it should have been a Final Four matchup or a championship if they were on opposite sides. But they got stuck with the 2 seed in the East region. So you got to go through Duke.
Right. And then next, see, I have Florida State in Michigan.
Yeah, I have Gonzaga and Tech with Gonzaga winning.
I had the Zags beating Michigan.
I have Florida State beating Michigan.
Oh,
Am I
really?
pulling a Nevada again?
You got
A little bit,
guys, reel me.
a little bit.
hold me
No,
back.
no.
Hold me back.
A third would be a fourth game of Duke Florida State at that point, right?
That's what you would
do
have.
they, do they play twice in the season and then once?
I'm not sure if they
I
play
don't know
twice.
if the AAC play or the ACC plays against division round robin.
No, they play single games
the Big
sometimes.
12 does that.
They play single
they
games.
only
They're
play
kind of like the
single
Big Ten.
Well,
They play some single
either way,
games, but I don't know if they played them twice or not.
In this bracket, this would be the third or fourth meeting between Florida State and Duke, and these teams are so good against each other. It's insane. The last 2 times they played each other, like in the regular season, Florida State literally lost with. They were up a point, I believe. Yeah, it was a point, and they lost with 0.8 seconds left on the clock. They literally threw an inbound pass, threw it in, won the game. And the ACC championship is a close game. That sounds exciting, but it's just not going to happen. It's going to be Gonzaga. So it's happening.
Okay, we'll see. We'll
The
see.
Zags.
And I will definitely remember this next year if I just get too hung up.
It's
on-
recorded,
It's
so-
recorded. It's there.
It's
forever.
history.
It's history.
The Loud Sports Institute.
So Virginia, Tennessee, up next in the Elite Eight. There's a lot. Oh, there's too much orange.
I like Tennessee.
I like
Tennessee,
Tennessee.
yeah.
Tennessee's moving on, and then North Carolina, and I got Houston here, but North Carolina's going to keep moving on because
Well, you both have Houston. I'm the only one that has Kentucky.
Correct.
Yeah.
North Carolina's on the list of teams that can beat Duke.
I think so,
Houston's
just-
not. That's what it comes
Yep.
down to.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina moves on.
Do you have Florida State beating Duke, or do you have Duke still going?
No, I do have Florida State finally losing. I have Duke and Tennessee going to the championship game. So I have Tennessee beating North Carolina in what will also be an awesome game. And then I have Duke beating Florida State.
Honestly, I would be totally for a Florida State Duke rematch again in the Final Four, and all these teams are very good teams. So no matter what, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm keeping my original Final Four, so I still got Michigan State and Gonzaga, and Tennessee and Carolina. With Michigan State and Carolina
Humble
going to
brag.
the championship game, I'm sticking with it.
You have Duke and Tennessee losing.
Yeah, no, I have Tennessee losing to Carolina in the Final Four.
yeah.
I totally see. Okay, so if Michigan State beats Duke in the Elite Eight, I would say they are going to go all the way from that point. If you clear the biggest hurdle,
And that definitely will be because Cassius Winston will be guarded by Trey Jones,
right?
who is probably the best defender in college basketball.
I want to agree with you because I've been banging on the drum that Duke is going to win. They're the best team. Or, well, not necessarily the best team, but they're going to win the championship. But that being said, if Michigan State were to win, I don't know if Michigan State beats Tennessee.
I do.
I think Tennessee could beat. I think if Duke gets eliminated, I think Tennessee wins the championship because I think they would
I
beat
think
North
it would be
Carolina and
Michigan
win.
State.
I think Tennessee's vulnerable because I'm not sure if Tennessee's a great 3-point shooting team. They have the bigs, and
Yeah.
Grant Williams is a stud, but I don't know if they have the 3-point shooting to compete with. And I think Michigan State does, and the point guard play again. Guard play, it comes back to guard play in my opinion. So that's where I give the edge to Michigan State.
And
They probably have the best guard in NCAA
and you have Tom Izzo,
and the coach.
who's been there before.
Rick Barnes is a good coach, but he's not on Tom Izzo's level.
No.
Right. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll talk about that again before the Final Four next week and see if anybody's got a perfect Sweet 16 and Elite 8. What is the game you are most looking forward to in the Sweet 16?
I think it's.
I'm going to say Duke, Virginia Tech, because Virginia Tech is undefeated against Duke. I'm pretty sure Virginia Tech has already beaten them twice.
I would
and
say
so that's an interesting matchup for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good one. I would say Texas Tech and Michigan is probably going to be the most exciting to me because it is what we were saying. It's two very similar teams. Could make for a really good game.
I'm really excited for Houston, Kentucky. That's my favorite.
That should be. That will be a fun one as well.
Yeah, that's a put down the remote for me. I do a lot of surfing.
Me too.
You gotta
game to game to game to game to game.
I hate commercials.
Yeah.
I know DirecTV does this, but did your grandpa have DirecTV? Because you could have done a split screen.
No, he doesn't have DirecTV.
Oh.
We're flipping
Well,
between
some cable providers they have picture in picture, and you can do like split screen stuff.
I wonder if Hulu does, because that's what I have.
I do that every when college football starts. I usually have 3 or 4 games on.
I don't channel surf as much in football, I guess.
No, I just miss the sport when it's opening weekend, like the first few weekends. I'm watching as many games as possible.
Unless, I guess I take that back. If the Hawkeyes aren't playing, then I kind of do. But if the Hawkeyes,
Right.
I don't leave the Hawkeye game.
Right, I don't leave the Nebraska game.
Can't miss that.
You can't leave your Homer game. Come on.
You might miss a 6-yard run instead of a 3-yard run.
And maybe it's maybe it's a pass to the tight end on the left or the right. You don't know.
You could miss a
Top 2 tight ends in the NFL
failed
draft.
fake field goal attempt.
I'm just saying, Brandon. Look at the size of my balls.
Oh, I
if
want the
I'm
Packers to
picking on your
draft
team, and my team has been 8-16 in the last 2 years, including 2 blowout losses to your team.
I hope that Packers take Hawkinson. That's all I have to say about the Hawkeyes.
He just brushes it off.
He just shut down.
He shut me down
Oh
because
my
he
gosh.
knows I can't.
It's like,
He doesn't need to argue with me. I just
not
gave him
even
all my
on our
points.
level. Look at
He's beat our teams.
Yeah,
How
there's
many
nothing-
years in a
there's
row?
nothing to really talk about, so
3 or
we're going to move on.
Was it 3 years now? 4 years.
4 years in a row on both teams, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
How does it feel that you are seen the same as Nebraska fan base from a football standpoint towards Iowa, that you are viewed at about the same as Indiana?
It
Or
does.
Illinois.
It does not surprise me because
Lower
Nebraska.
than Northwestern.
You look at Northwestern, you look at maybe Minnesota.
You know what's-
You watch the Wisconsin game. For
You know
sure.
what's.
the divisions, and then Nebraska.
What's even more hilarious is I would say the same about Northwestern because Northwestern always plays like Nebraska. Northwestern games are insane. They're always crazy.
That's just
Iowa can never
Northwestern in
beat
general.
Northwestern. Iowa can never beat Northwestern, no matter how good they are,
Nebraska.
or how bad Northwestern is. They just can't. I don't know why.
I don't
It's
know.
kind of like your thing with Kansas State and Iowa State.
10-year losing streak.
I don't know why, but they just can't do it.
Yeah.
How is that possible in football if you play every year and you lose 10 years in a row to a coach that could be a Civil War veteran? My grandpa's grandpa is the coach of Bill Snyder, the vampire Bill Snyder.
Bill
who never
Snyder
ages.
coaches at Bill Snyder Stadium.
That is
like,
unheard
He
of.
is
literally
still
retired,
he
and
is
they're like-
still coaching, and the stadium is named after
He
him.
literally.
He's going to die when he leaves.
He literally retired, and they're like, "Please come back." He's gone 3 years. Please come. I will say this though: nothing will ever beat Kansas because Kansas had a 40-year losing streak to Nebraska. 40 years.
That's really bad.
Yikes.
I can just picture the scenario though. Last college
Getting on a
football thing,
tangent here.
We did. We jumped, but we finished up the college basketball, and a little college football every week is good. But how I need to see the video of some 19-year-old scrawny kid coming to his front door. We need you, please. We're not
To
the
Bill
same."
Snyder?
Yeah, to Snyder, and he's just like, "We're not the same without you."
Ron Prince is an idiot. He just gets JUCO kids that aren't that good.
I'm getting too old for this.
Get off my lot. Why is he Clint Eastwood plays Bill Snyder in the Bill Snyder movie.
It's already sold.
3
That's
for
it.
3. That
It has been financed by the farmers of Riley County, Kansas, and it is being made right now.
Only diehard Big 12 and or Kansas State fans will ever understand my Ron Prince reference because nobody is going to remember that.
Are you
Remember that
talking
era.
about
The 3 years.
non-Bill Snyder?
I think it
years?
was like 05 to 07 or something.
Of
like
No
that.
idea who you were talking about.
Yeah,
I'll be
of my
honest with you.
Exactly.
Flyers
No
lifetime.
idea.
Nobody remembers. He was pathetic.
Didn't happen.
Didn't
Bill
happen.
Snyder only. But we do have some other football to talk. We love our AAF. Here we are.
Take aim. Only team to have a clinched playoff spot.
San Antonio next week.
Who's the only team to beat the Apollos?
Arizona.
Arizona. I was at the Arizona game. We'll get into that a little later. But yeah, Orlando looking great, like they have all season. Most polished offense
I
once
think
again.
almost I don't want to say every game, but almost every game they play, they've had a pick six. It's nuts. Their defense, like all around, they're playing really well. Their quarterback has 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. Orlando looks like the clear-cut champion right now. I would not have said that weeks ago, but after they just whipped on the Iron and beat them by 17, granted Arizona won, sure.
Iron lost to Memphis this week.
Iron had fallen. I think that Orlando loss threw them off their pedestal, and they kind of came crashing down to earth. Orlando's the best team. They're the champion. Might as well just give them the title right now.
Well, making the postseason.
Mic drop.
Comparing Birmingham to another ground and pound offense we know and love, it does sound like that kind of offense that is going to get you to a slightly above average season and a postseason berth, like maybe 7-5 or 8-4 in college football and making the Outback Bowl or something.
Good lord.
Right,
And
Brandon?
winning the Outback
Keeps
Bowl.
coming at him. Against Mississippi State, right?
Yeah, they beat Mississippi State this
Hey,
year.
Iowa State lost their bowl game, and they didn't get off the bus in the first round of the NCAA tournament.
Nebraska didn't even
They've
come
had
close.
a great year athletically, but disappointing ends, and I'm expecting more. I'll always be honest about my team.
4-8. I mean,
Iowa was the better football and basketball team this year. You better isolate that because you might never hear it again.
yeah. Good thing it's recorded. I'll get that to you, Brandon. I'll send you the link.
And the Hawkeyes will only get better.
I don't know about that.
They have the same team. Who is Iowa State returning? Aren't all their guys seniors?
Yeah, they're all gone. David
So they're just-
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy.
No, I'm talking about basketball.
Oh,
I'm not talking about football.
no, basketball. Wigginton is definitely not going. Pro
Oh, right,
after being-
Wigginton. He's a
so
sophomore.
He's a sophomore. Horton Tucker's a freshman. Halliburton is a freshman. Michael Jacobson is a junior. George Condit is a freshman. Iowa State's gonna be back. They're only,
Okay.
they're only losing. No, they're only
I've never
losing-
watched Iowa State until the until the tournament. I didn't never watch
we're
them.
stuck in the echo chamber of our own teams, and that's okay to admit.
Not me. My team's terrible. Tim Miles got fired, by the
We
way.
will get
Hey.
to that.
Fred Hoiberg's the favorite.
Hoiberg,
We
baby.
will get to that.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
He can be my mayor. Your body is. I'll sing John Mayer all night. I don't care.
That was a great poll.
Thank
for
you.
the mayor.
Back
Back to AAF.
That's what happens when
Pull
you
it back.
date someone that went to Iowa State for 5 years.
Pull it
You
back.
pick up on this stuff.
I did this. I started this by comparing Birmingham to Iowa football.
You did. You did.
My fault this time. I watched Memphis. Johnny Manziel, undefeated, overtime. Johnny football. It looked like Texas A&M all over again.
I don't know though. That other guy played really well. Number 12. I can't remember his name. It's slipping my mind. The other quarterback that played for Memphis. No, you only watched.
Mettenberger.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mettenberger.
Mettenberger actually played well.
The-
I think he had the game-winning touchdown, didn't he? Or was it Johnny?
It was Johnny.
It was Johnny.
I'm fairly confident. But the problem with the AAF is the offensive player of the week was Wolford, the Arizona quarterback. He had 212 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That is your offensive player of the week in your whole league. Something needs to be done for the cohesion of these offenses.
He should have been the West.
There's only one good offense that knows what they're doing and plays as a team, and that's Orlando.
Yeah.
I don't really think Birmingham has.
Just wanted to hear you say it.
in football is definitely, it takes time. Offense in football, it takes time
Definitely.
because there's a lot of moving parts and everyone has to do their
It's the
job.
first year of all
Yep.
these coaching staff.
Well,
And all these players playing together.
I think that
Right.
I think the thing that works.
it will get better.
I think the thing that works for Orlando is that they have an offensive minded coach, and if I'm Mike Riley's San Antonio's coach or is he San Diego's?
San Antonio, I think.
And San Antonio, I think, is doing well because Mike Riley is more offensive minded. I think this league is more of an offensive league. Yes, they have big hits and there's a lot more contact in the NFL, but I think this is a more offensive league than people realize.
You need offense to win the game.
Yeah, defense wins championships, offense wins the games. This is the old cliche. But from what I saw from Johnny Manziel,
he's just trying to get back to the NFL.
He didn't look bad. But I think he's on the getting into this league, and then now that he's had some time with it, they're obviously showing him off. The AAF was like, great, we'll bring in Johnny Football. That'll get us ratings. That's easily, they were opportunistic. But I think this is his NFL apology tour to be like, look, I went and played in Canada, and I'm really remorseful for the bad things I did and the stupidity. And it's totally the please let me back
humility
apology tour.
It's a humble and hungry move.
What can Johnny Manziel do to make an NFL roster?
Nothing. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback.
That's what I'm going to say. No, I mean ever. I just don't see Johnny Manziel as being a guy who can play in the NFL.
Memphis goes to the playoffs next year. Johnny Manziel is league MVP.
Wow.
I see him. No, I'm not saying that's going to happen.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying if that scenario plays out even somewhat that way, if he takes Memphis to the playoffs next year, I think he would be looked at for a backup somewhere. I mean, come on, there's 32 NFL teams.
He's a backup, yeah. I don't see him as a starter.
Yeah, that's kind of, I guess, I just don't see him
He doesn't
as...
have to start.
Okay, but
yeah, I could see him on a squad if that's the case, sure.
Maybe. But he just, that style of football at quarterback position, just, it doesn't work in the NFL. It doesn't work.
But here's the thing, though. Is there going to be an AAF next year for Johnny Manziel to be the quarterback? We don't talk about that.
Don't look at the men behind the curtain sweating and trying to count money.
Don't jinx us.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I feel like that's just going to be a thing with these, even when the XFL comes back, even though the XFL has Vince McMahon funding it and has put aside money to fund it. I imagine there's going to be rumors about the XFL folding right away because when these smaller football leagues come around, everybody has these ideas that they're going to fold because we were talking about this before we went on the air. We were talking about how the NFL really doesn't need a farm league. It doesn't need a G League because you have to spend at least 3 years in the college level. So that is your farm league. And I don't know. I think the AAF can survive, but it's going to be it's a wait and see type thing.
Scout teams were the farm league,
right?
Yeah, and scout teams don't have. They only have 10 players,
and that's what they're
not really.
And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get.
I don't know.
They're trying to get like practice squad guys from the NFL.
Is why it's better.
They're trying.
It's the AAF is better than a practice squad, but the AAF is not better than college football, in my opinion.
That's from a TV or fan standpoint, not
talent,
not a talent of the players standpoint, because the players in the AAF, they were
former NFL
stars,
players.
You know, they're better than college teams.
Better than some of the college teams, probably not all of them though.
Alabama could beat Salt Lake.
Clemson and Alabama.
Clemson could go down to Georgia and put the people's elbow
on Atlanta.
On Atlanta.
That's what I'm saying. Like those college teams, they are NFL like development.
Factories.
Yes, like they have 20 guys on their team that are NFL players each year.
Well, yeah, especially if you're Alabama or Clemson.
That's what I mean. Like you can just get your guys from Alabama and Clemson, and then you get your skill guys. The West Coast produce a lot of skill guys. Mm-hmm. You're gonna see that. That's just how it is. Like the college game still has the athletes that are gonna be in the draft. They're not gonna get.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's like G League and college basketball.
Yeah.
Which one did Zion pick?
You're never gonna pick the G League. The G League probably produces like 10 to 20 players in the NBA a year, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably more because of injuries than actual, out of necessity more than they're better.
Yep. But looking at the West Division here, San Antonio is kind of taking control. But Arizona won a very important game against against San Diego that I was at because they were both 3-3, and this is the tiebreaker to maybe make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And the fans did not know that.
I was gonna say I turned that game on and I saw that there was just no one there.
Okay, let me spin it for you though, because
There wasn't anyone there.
the amount of people that were there, it's a very large stadium. The amount of people that were there would have filled up Drake Stadium, would have filled up the Unidome.
Where were they at? On the top deck?
No, there.
Where? No, seriously. I'm being serious.
Dude,
When
we can look it up.
when I look through the camera, I see 100 people in the stands.
Oh my gosh. Okay, no.
That's what I see. The stands were empty.
At least 16,000 people there. There's
Okay, but on the TV screen, I see no one.
I don't know if from the TV they are showing the more shaded end zone, which was much more full than the other side.
Oh yeah, probably.
And which side of the stands, because one of them along the field was much more full than the other as well. There were at least 15,000 to 16,000 people there. It would have filled up any place in Iowa, and we would care more. The fans, I got seats for $13 a piece for 2 tickets, 8 rows up, like in the corner of the end zone. It was amazing seats because they can't fill up a stadium this large. But they could hear.
I think part of that is because of, to be honest, I don't think that they did enough preseason to show off that the AAF is a thing, that it's happening. You know, guys like us know because we're not just because of the show, but we're like into sports and we
want more football.
We want more football and we care about this stuff, so we would know that. I don't think there was enough done for a lot of these teams for people to be like, oh yeah, we have a pro football team in the spring, you know? And I think that they still feel the effects of that to this day.
The biggest cheer of the crowd was when they corrected the scoreboard because they gave Arizona's second touchdown to San Diego on the scoreboard. And the only chant that went stadium-wide all game was, "Fix the scoreboard." And then everybody cheered. Besides that, everybody got into it when a guy from the Fleet scored a touchdown, but it looked like he threw the ball out of his hand right before he crossed the plane. Like, was it Deshaun Jackson? Did that?
Yeah, he did that.
Yeah, just being a knucklehead. And in my head, I'm thinking, whether you got this touchdown or not, this is why you're in the AAF. Because the fact that you even did that.
What are you? Yeah, I never understand
Two
why
steps,
you would
hand
do
it
that.
to the official, throw it into the crowd. There are so many options. Birth it like a baby or sleep on it like a pillow.
Spike the ball like Gronk.
It's like I never understood that. I never understand that. Why would you ever drop the ball before you have physically crossed the line?
Does that look cooler?
No.
No, it doesn't.
You look like a knucklehead.
You look like an idiot. Exactly.
Yeah.
But in conclusion of going to an AAF game, it was hot. The stadium's a little too big, but it's one of the largest metro areas in America, and it makes sense why they picked it because they can start in February. It would have filled up any place in Iowa, and we would definitely have a more into the game fan base like you see in San Antonio.
You know, I saw a thing about on Reddit or something about the AAF, and somebody made a good point. They're like, even if the AAF were to fold in a few years and not exist anymore, at the very least, teams like San Antonio and Orlando or something like that, San Diego even, I think they should be absorbed into an expansion of the NFL because these cities have shown that they can support teams like that. I think San Antonio is very deserving of a pro football team now. I think Orlando is very deserving of a football team because they actually they're up there with number-wise with Birmingham or San Antonio. Birmingham, I don't know about like if an NFL team should go there. And it doesn't exactly have to be the San Antonio Commanders. It could be San Antonio, whatever you want it to be. I just think some of these, at the very least, the AAF has shown that some of these cities could support a pro football team and probably deserve one.
I hear what you're saying with the comparison of like the NBA, ABA, where they bought out that league with the obligation that they take 4 teams from that league.
Yeah, something like that.
So
yeah.
that's what happened, and so it's like the Nets, the Pacers, I think, and 2 other teams were originally ABA teams, and were absorbed into the NBA. But what I see here is you got to remember that the NFL is 30 old white guys and Shad Khan in a room. That's really what it is. There is one. Well, no, the Saints owner died, so 28 old white guys, 2 old white ladies, because that's the Giants and the Saints, and then Shad Khan. And so I
got it from his dad.
Yeah, I think that the NFL is going to want to go more global with their next expansion because they could have reached out to
I don't see the NFL expanding more as relocating. I don't see why do you need 34 teams?
But that's why Jacksonville's going to go to England.
I see the 30
like
why do you need 34 or 36 teams? You already have 32 and you're already the best league, probably the best league in pro sports.
You can't overexpand.
Yeah,
you can't kill you more than anything.
Yeah, and every other league only has 30 teams.
Right. The NFL, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I agree with you, Brandon, about how it will be more relocation and expansion, and that's why I'm kind of iffy on what you're saying about the AAF.
Well, then move Houston to San Antonio.
That I see someone move
Jacksonville to Orlando.
But my thing is,
Houston
what does Orlando offer that Tampa Bay doesn't? Aren't they right next to each other?
They're about an hour apart.
Like
Raymond
what's
James
the
Stadium?
what's the difference?
I-4 battle.
So doesn't that make Tampa better?
Bigger stadium.
Oh yeah,
bigger. That's what I mean.
And less of a destination city, more of a people live here city.
Yeah, and that
I think going off of nothing. Jake's our Florida guy here.
Well, I've never even lived in Florida, which is so funny. My uncle lives there. But no, I understand what you're saying because with Tampa, they've had the Buccaneers since the 70s. They've had that established. They have the Tampa Bay Lightning, which just won the President's Trophy, which means they had the best overall record in the league. What up? 5 games less in the season, and they could easily have the most wins in NHL history. What up? And then they'll probably lose if they do that.
First round.
Yeah.
Didn't they do that last year?
No. The last 3 times they've been in the playoffs, they have lost. They lost in the Stanley Cup.
They did make the finals one year. I remember
they lost in the Stanley Cup in 6 to the Blackhawks, and then the next 2 times that they went, they lost in the conference championship in Game 7. I'm sorry, I'll beat myself out, but it's a Game 7 and it upsets me. Anyway, point is, Tampa makes more sense than Orlando.
Well, Jake, I hear you saying that you're kind of bringing your own franchise down because you're comparing Tampa.
That's why you knocked on the wood.
You're comparing the Buccaneers as more of like a Buffalo or Green Bay, where this community has a grip that will never let go of this team until there is no one left in the town. That is really why. I mean,
well, yeah. Honestly, I think
there's one that will never relocate, and that's the Green Bay Packers because they're owned by the community.
If you look at Tampa, I mean, the Rays aren't even that big there. I mean, they're technically in St. Petersburg. And because it's like Tampa and St. Petersburg, they're both on the bay. It's like Oakland and the 49ers. Yeah. And you look at it that way. And then in reality, I think the biggest turnout fan-wise is the Lightning because the Lightning is the best professional sports team they have. So, yeah, Orlando probably doesn't need to be there. And they're so an hour apart. At least with Miami, Miami's down in the bottom of the state. And it's in
Miami,
a separate.
baby.
It's Miami,
and it's in a separate conference. It's in the AFC, not the NFC. It's a totally different thing. We were talking about this. If there were to be an AAF team in Des Moines, I don't think it would. It might have to put it in. You and I were talking about the UNI Dome at some point.
Well, that was Brandon's.
His original pitch,
yeah,
right?
That was his good pitch.
Because you almost have to because of snow.
That's kind of. The dome makes a lot of sense.
Oh, they love domes, and starting in February, the dome makes sense, and so it really, maybe Fargo will get one.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Or
I don't think it's big enough.
how big is the dome in Wichita? I could get something.
You really
Kansas
think
far enough north to where it's the same weather?
They
though?
do want to grab the Midwest, so you
they
got
would not-
got a dome in.
But
in
like,
St. Louis.
Wichita's basically Oklahoma. That's
Yeah.
that's how I
If
see
you're
it.
gonna do that,
Wichita is on the very south side of Kansas.
As someone who just drove through all of Kansas twice in a week,
You
let
don't
me
want
tell
to.
you, there is Wichita to Topeka and all of
Lawrence.
Kansas City, but once you get Wichita is right at the level where it turns into the dust. Like there's nothing here but
Kansas
cow
is the
pastures.
worst.
I would say that Kansas is worse than Nebraska to drive through. And every once in a while, once you get to that point in South Kansas, there's those oil rigs randomly, just those little ones in fields, and you're like,
Dude,
well,
Wichita Oilers. There you go.
oh, we tried that. Didn't even stick.
Houston Oilers.
All right, we had some abrupt retirements this week. We'll stick with football right now. Gronk, 9 seasons, 3 Super Bowls. What a career.
Yeah.
0.69 touchdowns per game in his career.
That's how he'd want to go
That's
out.
how he went out, man.
That's how he'd want to go
How
out.
he came in.
Yep.
That's a soundbite. No, not surprising. Not surprising.
I'm not surprised either. I thought he was going to retire last year, so
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that he retired this year.
He's been hitting for a few
Yeah.
years. I do think that he has. If you do this and you're Gronk, you have your next career move plan. Because as much as he has that persona of charge a certain amount of money and he will show up at your birthday party and shotgun a beer with you, or he's dating a supermodel and they like go on a cruise and tell people come on this cruise with us, and he's just this party guy. He has never spent $1 of any game checks. He has never spent $1 of any NFL money. He saves it and he lives off of endorsement money, and that is a wicked smart dude. I think he's gonna go to the WWE or something.
Is that intentional?
What?
He's a wicked smart dude.
He's wicked smart.
Wicked smart.
Wicked smart. And he's going to be in the WWE, or he's going to do something Hollywood-wise. He has a plan. And I say more power to him, because he created a brand for himself using football and is now going to take that outside of football, which we only really see with superstars, mainly in the NBA, but some NFL, like Manning.
Well, I was going to say the NFL is harder because you don't see their face.
It is, yeah.
The NFL. The stars are kind of unrecognizable at times, except for the big time stars.
But guys like that also have big personalities, and like AB would not be on the cover of Madden if he wasn't who he was, and
if
Gronk
he had a
wouldn't.
Tetris haircut.
Gronk wouldn't be on the cover either if he wasn't as out there as he is. What was up with that mustache?
At the height
By AB, by the way.
At the
What
height
was up
of
with
the
that?
Bears being
the
good,
blonde.
Matt Forte could have walked by me on the street. I would
Nope.
say that's a buff.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
That is an in shape
Nope.
dude. I would have no idea who Matt Forte
Exactly.
was when he was putting up like 1,600 all-purpose yards. And it is the helmet to an aspect, because I can point out. I would bet money that I can on faces name 6 to 8 dudes on every NBA roster. Because I watch a lot of NBA, I play a lot of 2K.
Yep, that's
and
what I say.
You
I
can't
know-
even see their faces.
I
in
know
Madden,
almost
you know?
every single person because of 2K. I could probably name almost everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
Honestly.
I think it says a lot about Gronk, especially in his position, that over the years, because it's become more of a quarterback's league, you have seen tight ends break out and be bigger stars. But he, in my opinion, he is the most famous tight end probably, and I would argue that he's one of the greatest tight ends to ever play.
It's not the greatest.
He's top 3 for sure.
It's him
He's
and
got to be in
Tony.
that conversation.
I see Tony Gonzalez as probably the best.
Yeah, I
Tony
would
was held
agree
back
with
by
that.
the teams he was on. It's not his fault that he had like
Antonio
one playoff
It
Gates.
is the worst crime, because he's such a nice guy, and like from what I've seen, seems like a really great person. It is a crime that he does not have a ring.
Antonio Gates is another one who's up there. I mean, he has 100. They both have 100 touchdowns,
Gates
don't
is
they?
a top 5, and along with then you got to throw in Shannon Sharp
What about Jason Witten?
and yeah.
What about?
Jason
let's be
Witten-
honest, but he's in the same boat as they don't have Super Bowls, but they put up
He's
great
durable
numbers.
and he's got great numbers, but I would probably put like Kellen Winslow Sr. above Jason.
But he was
Witten.
more of a receiver than
Jason
a tight
Witten.
He
end.
was like the first
Jason
receiver.
Jason
that is a tight
Witten.
end.
Jason Witten before last year had the all-time record for catches in a season.
Okay,
So I mean, that's being productive. That's what he was. That's what you want. Is that not what you want?
that is a culmination of circumstances of having a young quarterback who trusts a veteran tight end, and a lot of other things that come together. But I hear what you're saying, and Witten is a top 10, but I don't think I'd put him in the top 5 for me.
Here's another question: does Gronk do what Witten does, take a year off and then come back?
I could see
No.
that happening.
I don't see that because I don't see Gronk as the kind of guy who likes. I don't think he really loved the physical contact, the physical nature of football.
He got injured too much.
That's
Well,
I
when you're-
think that's why he wanted to retire last year, but they talked him into it. But I that's how I have always seen him like on the field and like how he talks. He doesn't love the physical aspect of football, and so that's why I don't see him coming back.
Right. And,
like Witten did.
And you see the injuries that he took because people were taking out his knee.
Exactly.
That's the only way you can tackle him.
He's an incredible physical person. Like
when you're trying to tackle a skyscraper, you have to take it out of the knees.
He could stiff arm defensive backs before they were in arm's reach of him.
Exactly.
Every time. And so yeah, he did. Like Shaq or LeBron got hit a lot more and harder than he should probably.
Yeah.
But I would say, oh man, he's not going to fail like Jason Witten did at his next career.
Yeah,
exactly. I can see him going to the WWE.
He has the personality.
He's gonna be a guy like JJ Watt who will just show up in random sitcoms and do random guest spots.
Yes.
He'll just be a cameo of himself.
What Shaq has done, like
he'll be on Ellen this fall. He'll be on Ellen, and then 2 nights later, he's in the booth guest commentating at an Arizona game, and he's back home, and they're like, "What are you doing this weekend, Gronk?" And he's like, checking out the sororities.
If the league were still around, he would have already been like a cast member at this point. He would have gotten brought on for the next season.
Don't bring up the league to me, dude.
Why do you hate that show?
No,
it's a great show.
I love it so much. It's like a lost member of my family that they stopped
that it's over.
That show was my life.
You know what's funny?
Like I don't mean that I like love it that much, but I related to it so much.
Oh, it was so funny.
Like at the start of when I'm watching that show, I'm like, oh man, I'm Pete. Pete's cool. Pete's fun. I'm Pete. And then the more I got into it, the more I'm like, oh my god, I'm Kevin.
No, I was gonna say, oh my god, I'm Raffy.
No, I realized I was turning more and more into Kevin from Pete. And it was disappointing, but that's a great show. Only 6 seasons, but they're 6 good ones.
I was told that I was Nick Kroll's character.
I love Ruxin.
Everybody
calls me Ruxin.
My friends called me Ruxin. That's who I was to them. This one isn't on the list. This got announced today. Jordy Nelson is retiring. How do you guys feel about that?
Sad.
I want him to take a 1-day contract as a Packer.
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
During a preseason game, he comes out with that 87, catches one more route.
Does he get inducted to the Packer Hall of Fame or Ring of Honor or whatever they call it?
I was surprised that he retired because I feel like he was still pretty damn good.
Well, was Gronk. So was
Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson is still the biggest
shock. Yeah.
What could he have been?
Robbed by a franchise.
What could Calvin Johnson have been?
If he was on 20 of any other NFL teams that could have recognized what to do with him and what he needed.
Could you imagine that? Being a franchise that is known for going 0-16 and retiring Calvin Johnson.
And Barry Sanders.
Barry Sanders. Yeah.
You have 2 first-ballot Hall of Famers that retired at 30.
Two of the greatest athletes at their position in NFL history.
They were both 30, and they said, I don't love it anymore. Detroit
literally grinds people down.
Football. That is Detroit football. And so you really got to give it to Matt Stafford. He's out there making that money, and he lives 60 miles from Detroit. But he's sticking with the team. And as Packer fans, they're just so cute, the Lions. they might get you at Ford Field every other year, and you're just like, oh, you Lions.
I got to tell you though, the NFC North probably has the most parity of any of the divisions, except for Detroit. It's always Minnesota, Chicago, or Green Bay. It's never Detroit that wins that division.
Detroit is in the playoff race until Thanksgiving. Detroit is in the playoff race because they are 5-5, and then they finish 6-10.
And then you guys, it's
That's why I never worry when they win on Thanksgiving.
Here's the thing: is you guys as Packers fans, it's like LeBronto for you guys. Whenever Aaron Rodgers plays Detroit, they don't have a chance. He always finds ways to beat him.
They broke his collarbone.
No, that's Minnesota.
He's broken his collarbone twice.
No, but Minnesota was the most recent one, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I was gonna say Minnesota's all
Anthony Barr, how great was it that he got jetitis? He signed
with the Jets.
He was going to sign with the Jets. The news came out he's going to the Jets, and then he's like, wait a minute, it's the Jets. And he backed out, and he stayed in Minnesota. And then 2 days later, they get Le'Veon Bell, and he's like, oh.
And who else did they sign? They signed They signed another really good linebacker, CJ Mosley.
Oh,
CJ
that's a
Mosley's in New
great
York.
pickup.
Yeah,
I like CJ Mosley.
I do too.
I'm sorry. To go again. We've been going off on tangents all night. We haven't been together in a while. It's been like a month.
A lot of catching up.
Yeah. I gotta say, I'm gonna be completely honest with you because we didn't have a chance to talk about this with OBJ going to Cleveland. I am still someone who is not ready to give Cleveland the AFC crown yet because
Who are you going to give it to
No
instead?
way. No,
Because
the
Cleveland-
Patriots.
no.
The AFC North. We're not talking about the
this
whole
the
AFC.
North?
No, not the AFC.
Cleveland's,
I said the
Cleveland's not
AFC
winning.
North.
Cleveland's not going to the Super Bowl.
No.
No, Ravens. They finally get the running back
And they-
that Harbaugh would want in his offense.
Yeah, but then they lost their they did.
They got
add
Earl
Thomas.
Campbell or Earl
Earl
Thomas.
Thomas,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
But
why
they
you
lost-
drop Weddles because you can get Earl
Yeah,
Thomas.
but so you're spending a lot of money on a guy, but now you lost your linebacker because you gave Earl Thomas that money.
You're betting on Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, who? Let's be honest, he's not going to win you a playoff game if he does make the playoffs.
He's a small guy.
But to compare,
and he is a small guy. He's like RG3. We'll
He's
see his
yeah.
second year. RG3 dominated his first year, just like Lamar Jackson did. We'll see.
but here's the thing, and it's the same reason why I can't even with all the smart moves the Jets have made. It's the same reason why I can't give them the crown because you can't trust them. A and B. Pittsburgh is still in that division. Baltimore's still in that division, and on the Jets side, New England's still in that division.
The Jets aren't there. They're
they still
not
don't
there
have
yet.
a chance.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're
Sam
not there yet.
Darnold and Le'Veon Bell are not going to beat Tom
Sam
Brady.
Darnold's not ready to. Sam Darnold's not ready for that. I don't think, and they don't have the receivers.
You know what? I guarantee you something. I guarantee you Le'Veon Bell. Well, let's not go that far. I was going to say I guarantee he doesn't reach 1,000 yards. I think that year off is going to mess with him. I think it really is. I think it's going to affect
he will
him.
be fresh. Adrian
think he will
Peterson
be-
was 8 yards short of the rushing record after tearing his ACL.
I think
But did he play for the Jets?
he played
No.
for the Vikings, who didn't have a quarterback either. So
Yeah, I'm not going
Adrian Peterson
to take your word for it. You're a Packers fan.
I'm saying Adrian Peterson
We
dominated.
love Kirk Cousins. He's just
No, he did,
siphoning
he did.
all the money out of the
Adrian
Vikings
Peterson was
organization.
incredible after that ACL
I'm
injury.
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
still upset that he didn't get that record.
It's okay. I'm okay with it.
Well, then I found out what he did to his kid, and I'm like, yeah, maybe not.
One more big retirement.
He's still balling out.
Yeah, he will this year too. You know, he will. One more retirement, Conor McGregor. But we've heard this before. This was like deja vu.
This
How about
one-
that?
He didn't say
Admit-
thanks for the cheese this time.
And then the next day, that story comes out about this
Sexual assault.
in the New York Times.
Yeah, like
That to me is telling. I think he did not retire. He was forced out by the
like
UFC.
Michael Jordan to baseball.
Yeah, because the UFC was like, because I feel like, yes, they got a hold of that information before the press did and was like, okay, you can leave because he's done so much for MMA and the UFC, but he's also the worst person to do business with because of that stupid attack on that bus
he's done
last
so
year.
much. He has that. He has the arrest for throwing a fan's phone on the ground.
That was just like last month in Miami.
Yeah.
All that
That
stuff.
was recently.
All that stuff with Mayweather, which was promotion and it got them a lot of money, but it's just like he was the worst person I bet to work with. I'm sure Dana White hated making negotiations with him and contract things and like that. And honestly, good riddance. I'm not gonna miss Conor McGregor.
Well,
I'm not.
It's very interesting because the laws in Ireland are that you cannot release the name of someone being investigated. You cannot release the name of someone that is being charged with a crime. You can only release the name of someone convicted of a crime, which gets rid of you hearing somebody's name on the news and or they're looking for this guy in connection with that, and it gets rid of some of that. But does this mean that they are very, very sure of whatever he's accused of? Because this is like from December and it's coming out now, but he has not been convicted of anything, and it's going against law, leaking out.
I think we're at this point in our society where we are taking, which is a good thing, that we are taking these sorts of allegations seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much the UFC knows. I keep wanting to say UCF. It trips me up every time. we don't know how much the UFC knows, but I think even a whiff of something like that would be enough for them to be like, all right, you've caused enough trouble for us. You have to go. And I think with his ego, there had to be an agreement where he's like, no, F you, I'm going to say that I'm retired. I'm going out on my terms, kind of thing.
Dana White can say you are not going to be scheduled, and then this is your opportunity to quote unquote retire.
And Dana White's not in control of the UFC anymore. He works for someone else.
But he is basically the GM,
right?
The president of operations,
right?
To the point where he decides cards. It comes down to him, I would think.
And I'm saying the bigwigs that actually are the millionaires that are actually running the UFC are going to be like telling Dana, you have to get rid of him.
What a businessman! He bought it for $4 million, sold it for like $4 billion.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a B.
Yeah, he bought it for $4 million. I know that.
Which, hey, I mean,
flipped it in like 15 years. That's a flip or flop.
It's the biggest combat sport in the world.
Well, there was an opening for it. There was a void. People were tired of the infighting and different boxing things.
And they were like, we don't want professional wrestling, the crazy antics of that. We want people to just beat each other up.
Well, let's take a vote. Does Conor McGregor wrestle on a UFC card again? Not saying he can box Floyd Mayweather.
If he gets cleared from,
he could be in Bellator. Will he be on a UFC card?
Like MMA,
like the entity of
in the octagon.
Yeah.
Well, Bellator is that, but it's a second tier. So would he be in UFC, Dana White, Vegas, or wherever?
Okay, specifically for UFC.
Correct.
If he's cleared of the sexual assault stuff, I think never, especially in combat sports and these kind of level of sports, never say never. So yeah. I say yeah, it could happen.
He's already come back once. Jason Witten just came back. Yeah,
it happens.
I hate to compare it to WWE, but this stuff happens with WWE.
He's back.
And Vince McMahon is a bigger egomaniac than Dana White. So I would not be surprised if after WrestleMania, Ronda Rousey signed a contract with UFC again. I would not be surprised if that stuff kind of happens. These guys come and go all the time.
She's not good.
She is.
She leaves a lot to be left on the
Do
mic.
not get me started on what's happening with WrestleMania.
That's a different podcast. We do have a few more things here, though. I need to send a message to Cyclone fans about Fred Hoiberg and Nebraska. There is a problem here with Cyclone Nation, and we need to find the root problem, the psychological problem, and come at it from that way. And Cyclone Nation, it's going to hurt to hear this, but we need to rip off the Band-Aid of being a losing everything. we are so okay and so ingrained with subpar football and basketball seasons that we want nostalgia over progress. Steve Prohm already has the same number of Big 12 titles as Fred Hoiberg. He is getting the same level, if not better, recruits. And if you say, oh, George Niang is one of the best Cyclones ever, he is. He's one of the best Cyclones ever. He's not one of their best recruits ever.
What was he, a 2 or 3 star probably?
He was a 3-star.
Yeah.
He was a big booty, short post guy.
Yeah, he's not he's not really athletic. He was just a good basketball player. Like
Hoiberg went to see Nerlens Noel and
saw George.
Saw George. And so we're getting better recruits now. We're on an upward trajectory still. There's a 5-star post player, in case you hadn't heard, in Oskaloosa with Iowa State on his list still, because this is where the program is at. We need to not choose nostalgia over progress. Fred Hoiberg did not like recruiting in college basketball. And if you're not in it for recruiting, how are you going to build a team? Prohm knows what he's doing. He's here. He has embraced the city. He and Matt Campbell are like best friends. It's kind of weird how often Matt Campbell tweets about the basketball team. But we need to not want Hoiberg back whenever we have a loss. Now, the second part of that is you have to let Hoiberg do what he wants. I don't care that this is a border rivalry. I don't care that this used to be the biggest rival to Iowa State. You know what that means? That means we weren't that good. that means we weren't competing. If at that time you feel more for Nebraska than you feel for Kansas.
Why is Iowa State fans worried about Nebraska in the Big Ten if they're not worried about the
That
Hawkeyes?
is a great rhetorical question, Brandon, because the answer is they shouldn't.
Exactly.
The answer is why do they at all?
Exactly.
They are not going to play Nebraska unless they go to the same invitational tournament, probably. I mean, that's the only realistic option. You can say March Madness, but yeah, sorry, Nebraska.
We're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
I'm pretty sure that has absolutely never. No, they got one, right? They got their.
Tim Miles had one appearance. Yeah.
So did they get a win though, or are they still the only?
No, they
Power
lost.
5?
They lost to Baylor.
This is the only Power 5 conference team that does not have a March Madness win. Is that correct? Not to put salt in it right now.
No, off the top of my head, I don't know, but that sounds right.
Yeah. So why are you worried about him going to an out-of-state team that is a much lower level team
in a different
conference? The state he was born in, I think it was his grandpa coached Nebraska.
Yeah, I think
his grandpa was a Nebraska basketball coach. He was born there, and they're like, "Oh no, he's Iowa State." That is you projecting yourself onto him. Stop picking the nostalgia. Let him do what he wants to be successful after he crashed and burned in the NBA.
I was gonna say, didn't Iowa State hate Fred Hoiberg after he left?
They were upset, and this is the most anybody's talked about him. The people that want Fred Hoiberg to be the coach and say that he should not be allowed to go to Nebraska are not people that follow the Bulls. They are not the people that are following Iowa State's current recruiting trails. They are not the people that are comparing, actually, the two coaches against each other.
Yeah, I will make a point. As a guy who doesn't watch a lot of Iowa State, what I remember from Hoiberg's teams is he had a lot of grad transfers. And I thought the same way because of Sayok. I assumed that's kind of that's how I've always seen Iowa State as the team who picks up guys on their fifth year seniors,
right.
And they're good. They make good teams, but they're always a different team every year.
Yes.
And now that you've informed me about a bunch of freshmen playing, that's way different than Hoiberg, and that's better.
That's the Steve Prohm way because he developed.
That's way better.
Cameron, Isaiah Kanan, is that the guard? There's a guard before Cameron Payne at Murray State that he built and developed. Kanan,
yeah.
Okay, thank you. And that's the Prohm. Hoiberg went to problem situations and got Chris Allen from Michigan State,
DeAndre Kane,
who had a falling out, and who grabbed Royce White because he was going to be kicked off the Minnesota team for maybe stealing somebody's laptop in a dorm. Nobody talks about that. Royce White is one of my favorite Iowa State players of all time. I wish he would have been successful in the NBA, but he was a super knucklehead. And there was talk, everybody knew that Hoiberg's first year, the starters were getting dominated in practice every day because there are redshirt guys that can't play on the team this year that are Royce White and Chris Allen, and then later DeAndre Kane, and Chris Babb was a transfer, and all of these guys that you're like, he's been here for 3 years. Oh, yeah, because he transferred after his freshman year. That's because Hoiberg didn't like recruiting. And that's the root of that problem. And so we're in a better place right now than we were when Fred left. Even better than any time during Fred's time at Iowa State as a coach. You can say that initially Prohm won with Fred's players. That happened, and that happens everywhere, but he's doing it with his guys now.
Yep.
And the knuckleheads, he gave them second, third chances. He worked and tried to help Cam Lard, and he's gone now. And I think that if you have a problem with a man choosing where he works, you need to look at yourself in your life and think how you would feel if somebody said, you can't work for that company.
Because you work for us.
Yeah, they're offering me a job.
And you won't.
And this is my area of expertise, and you won't up my pay. It's a little different with Fred, but he kind of does have, in a way, his pick of a good college job. And if he chooses Nebraska because he's from Nebraska, let him choose Nebraska. And I will say, go Big Red during the Big Ten basketball season. And I will cheer for Fred Hoiberg because he did a lot for Iowa State. And I could recognize that he did a lot for Iowa State while also knowing that we're in a better place now moving forward. And that's what I think a lot of Iowa State fans need to hear.
Yeah.
Build a program.
I I think it's definitely a wait and see. There's no confirmation as of this recording, but I think it's a good thing to let that go because who knows? He could flop at Nebraska. It's very possible he could flop at Nebraska. Nebraska's not a strong basketball school, so it's very possible. But yeah, like you said, I think you hit it on the head. They're not going to play each other. They're never going to see each other unless it's a Big 10, Big 12 challenge or something like that.
Which
never
And
happens.
those
Yeah.
athletic directors would never set up that matchup.
No,
They
because
say, hey, dude, we both don't want this.
you know that it's all about the ACC, Big 10 thing.
Those challenges will never change. I am sure.
Mhm.
The challenges are
The
pretty set in
SEC
stone
Big
now.
12 and the ACC Big 10, it'll never change.
But-
Which it's fine. I like those a lot. Those are always really
Yeah.
fun.
Final point here, as the Nebraska fan, tell me what you feel about the rumor of their possible head coach.
Well, I think it's exciting to have someone that's had success in that level, but people might look at it this way as be like, well, he never got past the Sweet 16. I was like, dude, we went to the. It would be nice to even be considered, to even be on the bubble of being in the tournament, let alone
to get to the Sweet
let alone
16
getting
is
to the
awesome.
Sweet. Right,
That's awesome.
Hoiberg's best roster was a number 3 seed and lost to UAB. I don't want to hear that stuff.
But what I'm saying is,
And I'm talking to Iowa State fans again that was his best team. So you really need to think about where you're at
That was
now.
DeAndre
And
Kane's team,
the
right?
Potential,
Right?
The
Yeah.
potential now with the
but
freshmen
did he ever
sophomores.
did Hoiberg get to the Sweet 16?
He got to Sweet 16,
Okay, I
yeah.
thought
they did
But
one
his
time, yeah.
best ranked team
right.
lost in like the third tip off of March Madness, and I just like
Yep.
ripped my brain.
I remember
who
that
just
as well.
who destroyed my bracket.
I remember that game.
I'll never forget.
Because that was one Iowa State team that I did watch a lot. That's why I remember DeAndre Kane. I remember, and he was damn good.
But I think it's exciting. It's an exciting move to get someone, and I've noticed getting someone that has ties to the university is important. And I think, Lincoln is a lawless town that's in need of a nice mayor.
But you can't let that
In need of a good mayor.
be too important, because if you let ties to the university get too important, you lend yourself to a situation where Steve Prohm is looking over his shoulder at the shadow of the guy who just left.
Now, flip side of this,
fans want
flip
back.
side of this, what if Hoiberg is very successful? So, and this is,
Go Big Red.
I necessarily don't think, but what if he's successful and goes deep, maybe even an Elite Eight or something like that? And granted, this is Nebraska, so that's not going to happen.
And
But
Iowa
if that
State
were to
has
happen,
if Iowa State has a 13-17 season and Fred Hoiberg leads Nebraska to a round of 32 win, there will be riots in Ames. That's all it would take. No, I'm serious. And
I think I might break up. I think
these fans need to
she
hear
might
this.
leave me for that.
We need to be happy with where we are. And if there's no name attached to it, if there is no loyalties and ties attached to it, as a Nebraska fan, you're getting a coach with high-level college coaching experience, high-level college playing experience, and he walks into a recruit's living room and said, I got to the NBA and I played, and the only reason I stopped playing is because I had a heart condition. I have coached at the NBA level. I know what to do to get you there. And that's how he got some of these Iowa State recruits, is that sentence, I know how to get you there.
Yeah, because I think even more so than, say, like the NFL, if you're a football player in high school, if you're playing basketball and you're good at it, you're only going to college to set up your NBA career. That's really all it is to put a little resume for your NBA career. So it's exciting. I'm not going to get overly... I'm not going to have the Frost effect of, oh, this guy was from here, he's going to take us to the promise. I'm not going to get that yet, because I'm someone who is realistic about this thing, and Nebraska is not necessarily the center of college basketball. Not you. And he doesn't like to recruit. He's gonna have to recruit if he wants any hope
Especially
to compete
at Nebraska.
against Ohio State, Michigan,
Get ready for the
any
grad
of these
transfers.
teams, Purdue,
Get ready for the grad transfers.
Iowa. Like he's gonna have to
The
recruit.
Big Ten is deep and good in basketball
There were 8.
everywhere.
They had 8 teams in the tournament this year. That's
They
the
had-
most of
they
any
had the most.
conference.
Yep, and they won 7 of those.
Minnesota. I could keep naming teams that he would have to
Yeah.
really compete with. But yeah,
Good teams.
I agree with you that Iowa State fans are in a good place. You're in a good
And
spot.
you need to chill.
He signed an
Calm down.
extension.
He signed an extension, which was in part because the job at his alma mater became available. Which no matter how good you are,
LSU,
Alabama.
Right.
Yep. So no matter how good you are, you need to lock up that guy when his college's job becomes available. But yeah, good podcast.
Long one
back here. Yeah, a little longer than expected, but we had a lot to talk about, and we'll be back next week before the Final Four, going through where we went wrong on our Sweet 16.